Alright, Celtic family, gather round because we've got a lot to dive into today. The mood around the club feels different right now, doesn't it? There's a new sense of energy, a bit of that old spark coming back after what's been a tricky few months. And while everyone's talking about who's going to be the next permanent manager, I think there's something special happening in the meantime under Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney. The fans can feel it, the players can feel it, and honestly, the whole atmosphere just feels lighter, more alive, more Celtic. Now, before we even talk about the names being thrown around, let's address the big one that's been all over the chatter, Craig Bellamy. There's been a lot of noise about him potentially being on Celtic's radar. And let's be real, the idea of Bellamy coming in as manager has that spark of chaos and excitement that Celtic fans love. But when you actually look at the situation, it's not quite that simple. Bellamy's currently managing Wales, and they're right in the thick of their World Cup qualifying campaign. They're looking pretty likely to finish second in their group, which means they'll head into the playoffs in March. Even if they somehow slip to third, they've still got that Nations League route to the playoffs. So either way, Wales are almost guaranteed to be in the mix for a World Cup spot. And that's where it gets tricky, because if Bellamy has the chance to lead his country to a World Cup, he's not walking away from that. Not in a million years. That's why, even though his name keeps coming up, I think this one's a long shot, at least for now. If Celtic are genuinely interested, they might need to play the waiting game. And that might actually be the theme of the next few weeks. Waiting. Because when you look at some of the other names linked, like Kieran McKenna or Kjetil Knutsen from Bodo/Glimt, they're all guys who are still right in the middle of important projects with their clubs. So while the rumors are fun to talk about, there's a growing feeling among the support that this appointment might not be quick. And honestly, that might not be the worst thing. The truth is, Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney have steadied the ship. The two games they've overseen so far have brought back a bit of that Celtic swagger. The players look happier, the football looks sharper, and the fans have started to believe again. Sometimes it's not about tearing everything down and starting fresh. Sometimes it's just about reminding the players who they are, what it means to play for this club. And you can see that shift on the pitch already. When you look at the Celtic board, they've always been a bit reactive rather than proactive. If things are going well, they won't rush to change anything. They'll let things breathe. And to be fair, right now, it feels like things are going well enough to give O'Neill and Maloney a bit of space. There's no panic, no urgency to make a headline appointment. And maybe that's smart. Because compared to the end of Brendan Rodgers' time, this just feels better. Rodgers is a top coach, no doubt, but by the end, everything had gone stale. The spark was gone. It felt like everyone was going through the motions, players, staff, even the fans. And then, almost overnight, with O'Neill and Maloney stepping in, the whole place woke up again. There's a sense of pride again. The players are fighting, the fans are singing, and it's just got that old Celtic buzz back. You know that feeling when you go into a game and you actually believe again? That's what's coming back. So, while the search for a new manager continues, maybe there's no need to rush it. Let the right opportunity open up. Because for now, O'Neill and Maloney are doing just fine. But let's be real. The media's silence on new names being added to the list is telling. A week ago, it felt like there was a new rumor every hour. Now, it's gone quiet. And when things go quiet at Celtic, it usually means the board are happy with how things are ticking along. They're not leaking anything. They're not desperate. And that's probably because they feel a bit of stability for the first time in months. Meanwhile, off the pitch, the club's new Queen Street store officially opened last night. Normally, that would be a pretty big event. Players showing up, fans queuing round the block, the whole thing. But this time, there's a bit of tension around it because of the ongoing fan movement calling for supporters to limit spending on club merchandise and extras until bigger changes are made at the boardroom level. It's a powerful message, and you can feel it even at events like that. The store looked great. They had Sebastian Tinkotti, Callum Osman, and Johnny Kenny there, but it wasn't quite the usual buzzed-up Celtic retail event we're used to. And speaking of Callum Osman, let's talk about this kid for a second, because right now, he's the name on everyone's lips. The buzz around him is real. He wasn't even in the original Europa League squad, but thanks to a new UEFA rule, Celtic have the chance to make one change if a player is out for at least 60 days due to injury. That's opened the door for Osman to replace Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's sidelined. And that's huge, because it means Osman could be available for the upcoming European game in Denmark. Now I get it. It's easy for everyone to get caught up in the excitement. He's young, fast, and he's got that hunger you can't teach. But we've got to be patient with him. He's literally just made his senior debut. Before the match against Falkirk, the lad hadn't played a single first-team game. And yet here he is, suddenly being talked about as the next big thing. Football can be wild like that. One week you're training with the B team, the next you're on everyone's radar. What I love about Osman is that he's not letting the moment overwhelm him. You can see he believes he belongs here. There's something really refreshing about that. He's playing like a guy who's waited his whole life for this chance, and now that he's got it, he's not letting go. His pace, his movement, his confidence, it all stands out. He's the kind of striker Celtic have been missing since Kyogo left. I'm not saying he's anywhere near that level yet, not even close, but the profile is there. That sharpness, that ability to stretch defenses, that's something we've lacked. Maloney and McManus saw something in him right away. They watched him in training and realized they couldn't hold him back any longer. And maybe that's the biggest difference between now and a few weeks ago. Under Rodgers, maybe Osman wouldn't have been given this chance. It feels like the new coaching setup is willing to take those risks again, to trust young talent. And for a club like Celtic, that's massive. Because some of our best stories have come from taking those chances. Young players stepping up, seizing the moment, and never looking back. And you can see the respect already building between Osman and O'Neill. Maloney even mentioned that when he and O'Neill sat down to talk through the squad, he knew right away that the manager would love Callum's attitude and energy. That bond is growing quickly. It's the kind of relationship that can transform a young player's confidence. Meanwhile, senior players are stepping up too. You've got Callum McGregor leading like a captain should, James Forrest showing his experience, Tierney and Alistair Johnston driving the intensity in training, and even Cameron Carter-Vickers, despite being injured, still making the effort to be at matches, supporting the lads. That's leadership. That's the kind of culture Celtic need to protect. The coaching staff have made small tweaks tactically, more direct runs from midfield, more intent to get in behind defenses, but the difference on the pitch feels much bigger than that. Sometimes it's not even about tactics. It's about energy, belief, and confidence. And that's what's changed most in the past 2 games. Now, we've got a big test coming up in Denmark. It's not going to be easy, but there's belief again. And that's what matters. Under Rodgers, you might have looked at this fixture and thought, let's just hope we don't lose too badly. But now, you can feel the confidence coming back. The players believe they can get a result. And if they pull off even a draw there, it could be massive for the rest of the campaign. That's the Celtic spirit we've all been waiting for, that mix of fight, belief, and joy. And with everything going on, from the managerial search to the rise of young players like Osman, there's a real sense that something's building again. Not finished yet, not perfect, but definitely heading in the right direction. So let's carry on, because there's still plenty happening around Celtic right now, both on and off the pitch, and honestly, you can just feel the mood shifting across the club. After that rough patch under Brendan Rodgers, it feels like the clouds have finally started to clear. Martin O'Neill and Sean Maloney have not only brought back structure and belief, but there's a sense of calm returning to Lennox Down, something we haven't felt for quite a while. You can see it in the players' faces when they walk out onto the pitch. They're playing with a smile again. They're pressing higher, chasing every loose ball, and you can tell they're enjoying football again. That's the biggest difference, enjoyment. Sean Maloney has been brilliant in his interviews lately. Every time he speaks, you get a bit more insight into what's actually going on behind the scenes. He's not one for vague cliches. He talks properly about tactics, mentality, and development. He explained recently how he and Stephen McManus had been watching Callum Osman train for weeks before finally deciding he couldn't be held back any longer. It's refreshing to see coaches trust their instincts like that, especially with young talent. Celtic have always been at their best when they blend experience with hunger, and Osman's arrival into the first team feels like a reminder of that tradition. Maloney also gave a bit of credit to the senior players, and rightly so. Callum McGregor, James Forrest, Alistair Johnston, and even Kieran Tierney, who's come back looking sharp and determined, have all been massive in steadying the ship. And then there's Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's still out injured, but making the effort to be present at every home game, supporting the lads from the sidelines. That sort of commitment matters. It keeps everyone connected. It shows that being part of this club isn't just about the minutes you play. It's about being part of something bigger. And speaking of connection, the relationship between the squad and the supporters feels alive again. You could sense it last weekend. The noise, the passion, the way the fans lifted the team. It was like watching Celtic at their best, when the energy from the stands feeds the players, and the players give it straight back. That's what makes Celtic Park different. It's not just another stadium, it's a heartbeat. And when that rhythm is back, anything feels possible. Now, looking ahead to that massive Europa League tie in Denmark, it's going to be a real test of where this new energy can take us. The Danish side are flying right now, scoring for fun in their league, and they've been tough to beat in Europe. But here's the thing. Celtic have stopped fearing these trips. You can feel it. Under Rodgers, there was this sense of hesitation in big European nights, like the players were overthinking every pass, playing safe instead of brave. Under O'Neill and Maloney, even though it's only been a couple of matches, there's a bit more courage in how they play. You see midfielders bursting beyond the striker, you see wingers taking on their man instead of cutting back, and you see the defense stepping forward rather than sitting deep. It's small stuff, but it changes everything. There's also this feeling that, win or lose, the fans just want to see the team fight again. That's what Celtic football is supposed to be, attacking, relentless, fearless. And even if the result doesn't go our way in Denmark, I think supporters will still appreciate what they're seeing. Because for too long, it felt like the team had forgotten what it meant to wear the shirt. That's what's changed now. There's passion again. While all of that's happening, the club's transfer department hasn't gone quiet either. Word from reliable sources suggests that Celtic are seriously looking at David Watson, the young midfielder from Kilmarnock. His contract's up at the end of the season, which makes him an interesting target. He's only in his teens, but already looks like a proper Scottish player, strong, aggressive, and clever on the ball. Kilmarnock valued him at just over £1 million in the summer, but with his deal running down, that price could drop. He's exactly the kind of homegrown talent Celtic need to be bringing in, especially with UEFA's squad rules requiring a certain number of Scottish-trained players. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. There's a quiet buzz swirling around the east end of Glasgow, and it's growing louder by the hour. Word is that Celtic have pulled off a daring move in the transfer market, securing the signature of a lightning-fast South American winger whose name, for now, remains shrouded in secrecy. Parkhead insiders are hinting at raw pace like we've not seen in years, and the kind of flair that makes defenders panic before he's even got the ball. Though the club has yet to make anything official, sources close to the deal suggest the player has already been spotted at Lennoxtown, going through light training and fitness tests. The whispers began late last week, when a private jet from Sao Paulo landed at Glasgow Airport under the radar, and a few eagle-eyed fans noticed a familiar club vehicle waiting nearby. Since then, speculation has exploded across fan forums and pub chatter, with names ranging from Brazilian prospects to emerging stars from Uruguay and Argentina. What's certain, according to those who claim to have seen him in action behind closed doors, is that his speed is unreal. He's a blur, man, one insider reportedly said. You blink and he's 10 yards away. The gaffer couldn't stop smiling. There's talk that his arrival could inject exactly the kind of unpredictability Celtic have lacked in recent weeks, especially down the wings, where the side's tempo has occasionally faltered. Manager Brendan Rodgers has been coy, offering only a knowing grin when asked about possible new arrivals after last weekend's match. We're always looking to add quality and energy, he said. If something happens soon, I'm sure you'll enjoy watching it unfold. Supporters, naturally, are losing their minds. Twitter's a storm of green and white emojis and flight tracking screenshots, with many hoping this mystery signing will become the next cult hero, someone to light up Celtic Park on a cold Wednesday night, with samba swagger and sheer, unstoppable pace. For now, the rumor mill keeps spinning, and the faithful wait for that all-important club announcement. One thing's for sure, if the talk is true, the wings of paradise are about to get a whole lot faster. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.